Rev up your engines!
Well, gas prices are plummeting in many areas. You might wonder why. Well, there's an oversupply of oil. Price of oil is going down. It's the end of summer. And of course, then they start using the winter blend gas, which is cheaper to make. Now, for most of it, great. I bought some gas the other day. It was $2.65 a gallon. Hey, not bad here in Tennessee, right? But if you live in California, too bad. The price of gas in California is actually climbing up while it's going down in the rest of the country. And they make excuses like, well, we have a special brand of gas that's only used in California, and we have more taxes on them, and, oh, well, our refineries are down now. They're doing maintenance. Basically, you live in California, you get ripped off. That's what happens, right? You want to live there, you're going to be paying through the nose the rest of your life because that's how that state just is. Now, supposedly, the California legislators looking at price gouging. Yeah, they've been gouged forever in California. They didn't do anything about it. I was in Death Valley one time. Gasoline was $7.50 a gallon. And that was the ultimate ripoff because there's like only 2 gas stations. So they can charge you. You're in Death Valley. You want gas or you don't. Too bad. $7.50 or you don't get any, right? I found out there. It was hilarious. A 30-minute drive over the Nevada border and gas was like $3.20 a gallon instead of $7.50. So I just waited. Luckily, I rented a RAV4 that got like 40 miles a gallon, so I didn't use up all the gas. I just filled it up on the way back to the airport. Well, I guess if you live in California, you just cross the border to buy gasoline because it's cheaper in Nevada too now. Well, here's a hilarious one. It happened a year ago, but it just came out. Ford's CEO and their CFO took a drive in a Chinese EV. And what they said about it says a lot about the United States and electric vehicles being behind. Turns out that Ford CEO Jim Farley and their CFO John Lawler took a test drive in a Chinese electric SUV early 2023 and said, oh, this is nothing like before. These guys are way ahead of us. It's coming out now. You know, some reporters did research and stuff. They would probably deny the whole thing. But the hilarious, this is what I always laugh my butt out about. They call them Ford's C-suite executives. Now, you know, they say C-class executive, C, because that stands for chief, right? CFO, chief financial officer, CEO, chief executive officer, right? Well, to me, I think C is the right word because C is average, right? When you went to school, A's were the great ones, B's, and then the C's were just the average ones. So, hey, that's what I agree. They are C-suites, which to me means just average run-of-the-mill garbage. They should call them A. A is always the top, but they brag about being C's, right? I think it's rather ironic, and then maybe they should be D and F as far as I'm concerned, the way they're doing Ford. The CFO says to the CEO, or whatever you want to call it, Jim, this is nothing like before. These guys are ahead of us. John, this is an existential threat, he said. Now, of course, they sent messages to Ford's representatives who didn't comment on it. What do you think? They're going to comment on it? Of course they're not going to comment on it. These people don't realize anybody says anything today. People have phones, they're recording stuff, taking pictures of stuff. You better keep your mouth shut if you're going to say something that makes you look bad. If you've got these corporations that are messing everything up, and then, whoops, well, I guess the Chinese are way ahead of us. Oh, God, this is embarrassing. I find it hilarious. Mystic192 says, I'm looking at an 05 Infiniti G35X with 160,000 miles. Should I buy it? They want $4,000. I was also looking at a 2006 M35X with 175,000 miles for $4,000. The other car I considered was a 2000 Acura TSX with 200,000 miles. But cheaper. Yeah, I'd gamble with 200,000 miles, but I'd buy the Acura long before. I would never buy any of those Infinitis with high mileage. They're endless money pits then. The catalytic converters go out, the engines go out, the transmissions go out. Infinitis are something you buy new if you want to waste your money and drive it for a while, and then when it gets over 100,000 miles, if it hasn't broken already, get rid of it then. If you really got your heart set on one, hey, lease one. Get the shortest lease you can get. You'll have fun driving it. But they're not long-term cars. They're not like Hondas and Toyotas that can go hundreds of thousands of miles. They fall apart when they get older, and they're very expensive to fix when they do because they're Infinitis, and their parts are super expensive. You can get parts for Nissans a lot cheaper, even though it's the same company. That is their fancy version, and the parts just cost more, the labor's more. Stay away from one that's used. Now, I don't care. If it's got over 100,000 miles, don't buy it. And I would only buy it with lower mileage if it was dirt cheap, to drive it a while, and then when it started to get a little older, I'd sell it and get something else. Well, Porsche has an idea now for a 6-stroke internal combustion engine. Now, if you know anything about cars, most are 4-stroke, and one of them is the power stroke when it fires, right? The others are intake, compression, and exhaust, and only the firing one gives power. Well, Porsche claims that they've got an idea for a 6-stroke engine, more power strokes, of course. What they're doing is they're taking 6 individual strokes, dividing it into 2 3-stroke sequences. The first sequence is intake compression, followed by compression power exhaust. Really weird design, too. There's a crankshaft that spins on a ring with concentric circles. Of course, it would be complex as can be. So you'd have 1 power stroke in 3 strokes instead of 1 power stroke in 4 strokes like today. But, I mean, absolute complexity of it, and it's Porsche, of course. They would be super expensive, right? There's all kinds of complex designs out there that, in theory, put out more power and energy, but they would be so complex to build, they'd be so expensive, and of course, as we all know with Porsches, they would probably break down all the time. Very interesting technology, I'll give it to them. I won't be buying one anytime soon. You can't buy one anytime soon either, because they don't actually produce them for people to buy, but hey, who knows? Maybe one day we'll have 6-stroke engines, but I kind of doubt it. Sounds too complex to me. Look what happened with Nissan with their variable compression engine. It's a dramatic failure. The engines break, cost too much to build, and the actual added power and gas mileage was just minimal, like 4% or 5% or something. Well, you know, they're trying to tout hydrogen as the new fuel cells, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? One of the big boys in the structure is Ballard. They're restructuring, and they're laying off employees. Ballard Power Systems announced a global restructuring to cut corporate spending. We have a slowdown in hydrogen infrastructure development, delayed fuel cell adoption. Yeah, no fooling. It's maybe the future. Fuel cells. Who knows? And it might not even be hydrogen. They might use ammonia or something else, right? Hydrogen is not that energy dense. It's a real light element. You got to compress it down, really bunch to use it. And of course, the infrastructure doesn't exist. James May, the original Top Gear guy, he owned a Toyota Mirai hydrogen car, and he said it was the best car he ever had that he had to get rid of because there was only one station in England that had hydrogen. And in California, Shell shut all of their hydrogen gas stations down. So, I mean, of course, these companies like Ballard that are big on it, they're going to be shutting stuff down. They're going to cut things down because it's not profitable. People are not using it. Now, I believe Walmart has got some hydrogen trucks that they're trying out in Canada. They're not doing it in the United States yet. They're doing it in Canada, a smaller market, right? And maybe they can have all their own hydrogen refueling things at the depots where Walmart has their trucks, or at back at one of their stores, they could have a hydrogen refueling station. But that stuff would cost a fortune, and, you know, who's going to fix it and all that? For us regular people, we're not going to be using hydrogen, if ever, for quite some time, and these companies are finding that out. Like Ballard, that was big on it. My advice, don't buy Ballard stock. It's probably going to start going, they lay off people, the stock starts going down. You know, the funny thing is, they lay off people to cut costs, so it makes them look better. But if you cut everything down and you don't do anything, eventually people realize that. I've seen that in the stock market years and years. Companies that they lay people off, they get rid of equipment, and then their price goes up a little because it looks like they're making better money because that cuts their bottom line, right? That only fools people for a short period of time. If you got a product that isn't accessible, people don't buy it. People don't use the hydrogen, the fuel cells. In a very short period of time, at least geologically, it might take a few years in the real world, people will realize that the stocks will go, the hydrogen companies will go, and everybody will wonder, gee, I wonder what happened there. Well, what happened was you're trying to push a technology that isn't proven too fast, and it isn't going to work that way. It takes a long time to swing things like that around. Unless it's something that's so much better, it takes forever to swing things around. Cars are so much better than horse and carts. Even then, it took a while to get people to get them. Once they started doing with Henry Ford and mass production, cheap prices, everybody wanted it. Transportation, blah, 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 was a better system. These systems are energy systems, right? They're not necessarily better. They're more inconvenient. In the case of hydrogen, they're more dangerous. You're dealing with a flammable gas, right? Instead of liquid gasoline, that's a lot more stable at room temperature. So hopefully you didn't invest your money too much in these hydrogen stocks, because it's going to float away as people find out it's not economically viable. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.